Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Let's just take a deep breath. Exhale with a sigh. Time stops. Under the burning sun, like a thread of smoke that's lowering, you leave forever on the mossy balcony. The light fades, wild grass along the river. That was a poem from my grandmaster, in other words, my root teacher's teacher. My name is Suchandra, and we're going to dive into a new kind of world that perhaps one day we can co-create together in order to see the unseen and know the unknown. We must be daring enough to see what is truly there, the reality. Today we will go through 3 key elements: awareness, insight, and action. But before we do that, let's wake up our minds a little bit more. So pop quiz. You can shout out loud or you can silently just answer. Complete the sentence. What flows through your attention? A, B, or C? The answer is C. What flows through your attention sculpts your brain. Next question. What are the general ways to improve attention? Intention, setting, quieting the mind, staying awake and alert, and abiding in awareness. The message here is simple. So we notice the gap between our thoughts. This is a palpable way to discern the field of awareness from its contents. This way, perhaps, we no longer get caught up or stuck in the nets of delusion. So we see immediately that mindfulness, it changes the structure of the brain, because amongst countless benefits, those who are mindful are not servants of their emotions. What about the connection with mindfulness and learning new things? So in science, we see neural pathways, brain plasticity. So besides Eurocentric data, which all of us can easily access, we have Google Scholar amongst other sources or library. We have an ancient text, the textual records originating back to 20 BCE. So this presentation is very focused on that, the Satipaṭṭa Sutta. So it means the 4 foundations of mindfulness. We're going to dive into it, and we're going to bridge it with science. So prior to that, to the writing of the Satipaṭṭa Sutta, it was orally transmitted. We'll find how our attention, it's like a spotlight. The spotlight illuminates the mind stream, and it's going to shape our brains. We see that in every moment of our life. So we have virtue, mindfulness, and wisdom, or easily said, well-being, personal growth, contemplative practice. These are the pillars of everyday wellness, right? So they also draw upon 3 fundamental neural functions. So we can connect well-being to regulation, personal growth to learning, and contemplative practice to selection. So the path of awakening, many people are like, I want to be enlightened, I want to be awakened. But what does it involve? It involves both transforming the mind, the brain, and uncovering the true nature that was there the whole time. This is science. So to understand, we need to go to the beginning and ask, what does the word mindful really mean? Sati is the Sanskrit word for mindfulness. So sati is related to the verb satati, which means to remember. This is the ability to recall to mind what has been done or said long ago. The standard definition here. So although this definition, it establishes a relationship we see clearly between mindfulness and memory, let's make a note immediately that it doesn't equate the two. So when we look closer at the traditional text, when we dissect the Sanskrit more, we see that sati is actually defined as that which facilitates memory. So if sati, mindfulness, is present, memory will be able to function well. To understand being mindful in a direct way beyond theory, we traditionally begin with number 1, contemplation of body, right? These are the 4 foundations of mindfulness broken down. We see it's not just a very one-way practice. There are many ways to practice. So within contemplation of body, we have the first one, breath, foundation of contemplative practice. This breath, it's both gross and subtle, so it's always there. The most reliable thing we have. So if you want to dive deeper, since we don't have time to really go into the practice, if you're here, you're at CIS, I recommend you attend some of the mindfulness sessions through the Wellness Center. Then you can experience for yourself directly. In the meantime, we don't have time, again, to go through each piece, but let's look for a moment at number 4, contemplation of phenomena. Here, the very first one, we have written the 5 hindrances. So this is that which weakens wisdom, right? So just like we breathe in and out mindfully, fully aware, what if we relinquish, let go of 5 types of mental hindrances? What's going to happen? We let go of sense desire, ill will and anger, sloth and torpor, restlessness and remorse and doubt. And just like we breathe in and out, when we sit on the formal meditation, on the cushion, the training ground, we also have these phenomena every day rising and falling. So the query here is, can we notice it before it arises and transform it into something useful? So for example, here, we have a thought of ill will and anger arise. If we maintain our mindfulness, then we can transform that. When mindfulness is developed through morality, wisdom, patience, right, or wise effort, then perhaps this anger and ill will can transform into loving kindness and compassion toward others, and we behave differently. And when we behave differently, the other behaves differently. But remember, to enable mental concentration, to enable us to not just react, but to respond, we need to have insight, which arises through the contemplation of breath. This is what will calm the mind. When the mind is calm, the body is calm, and vice versa. So what if our solution is not necessarily what we do out there, but it starts with what we're doing in here? So take another deep breath in. Let it go with a sigh. We transform our life from the inside out. Then our planet has no choice but to transform, right? So rather than only considering life when it's happening to us, we can use these tools, such as mindfulness, to evoke a reconceptualization of connection to ourselves, to others, and to the planet. So is this the invisible thread? Remember this just a few moments ago? Everything requires a technique. So our psychoecology, it's at stake, okay? We're in a psychoecological crisis. Let's briefly zoom in. Zoom in the 4 Noble Truths. So we see here, number 4, at the very bottom, 4 Noble Truths. Now, if you've heard about the 4 Noble Truths before, keep an open mind. Okay? Within the 4 Noble Truths, we have the truth of suffering. This is the first truth. So we all know it, we all experience it, right? Every time you're dissatisfied about something, you're upset about something, suffering. So if we don't save ourselves from our own suffering, how can we help those we love? Moreover, our numinous earth. Step 1, develop concentration. Concentration will lead you to insight. It happens also through reflection, these 3 points. So What's step 2? Action. Mindfulness can be classified as wholesome and right action in a way, right? So action itself can be wholesome and unwholesome. So when we operate from a mode of behavior or a form of practice that leads to the diminishing of the causes of suffering for not only oneself, but for others as well, this is wholesome action. So if what I'm doing is actually causing you to perhaps not suffer so much, and at the same time, I'm not suffering so much, and the actions you're doing is causing the people around you to not suffer so much, and likewise yourself, then we have wholesome action. So I'd advise anyone to reflect actually on this very carefully later. In contrast, when mindfulness comes in conjunction with unwholesome actions and intentions, right, it will be qualified as going in the wrong direction. For lack of better words, I use right and wrong here, okay? So why? It lacks the fundamental insight that each of us, we build our own afflictions. Everything happens through the mind, right? We cause ourselves harm and the world around us harm, but if we can heal these aspects by being aware of them, can you imagine what world would it be? From the inside out. Very important. So this is not a practice that in retrospect we're like, oh yeah, I made a mistake. No. How do we, prior to the action, through body, speech, and mind, actually create that which will lessen suffering for the world at large? The funny thing is that every time we think we're being mindful, we think we're being aware, we're going to realize every time we're not. It's really lovely. And that is the development of awareness. That's how transformation happens. So this is actually where transpersonal psychology comes into play. Transcending the ego structures takes time. Transcending our beloved planet, Earth, takes patience. If we wait until tomorrow, we never have a chance to transform today. So perhaps now is the time to say yes to humanity and resolve to be, as Mahatma Gandhi once said, be the change you wish to see in the world. And just maybe, just like Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey can unfold, maybe now you are being called. This is how our inner work leads to outer results. I know what you're thinking. But Suchandra, this is going to take forever. No, it won't take forever. Mindfulness is both a process and an outcome. So here we are in academia. What do we need? First of all, we need future research in contemplative pedagogy. Eco and transpersonal psychology must be more rigorous in design and execution. Besides contemplative practices, I would posit these first steps. First, how can we arrive at definitions that are both conceptually and operationally useful to our work at large? In order to do this, we need to have a consensus on defining components or processes. Another aspect of the field that needs work. So this is a really precious opportunity, and those of you working with youth, embodied education is essential. People learn more from your actions than your words, so don't give empty words. What are you prepared to do about it? How can we have a deeper ecology of the mind? What if we're the river flowing into the vast, great seas? The ocean. So I'm going to call you forth for us to all weave together a mindful world and ecopsychology. Now, for the sake of final validity, we have some references.